in this next news story. And a Love Island star who was dubbed Barbie was the brains behind a drugs cartel which stretched across the north of England. The sentencing of the glamorous woman Magdalena Sadlo, a star on the Polish edition of Love Island, brought to an end the final stage of a huge probe into an extensive importation and distribution network. Sadlo, who's 30 years old, played a pivotal role in the international arm of the conspiracy, acting as a key link between UK-based crime groups and overseas drugs cartels. Sadlo used her management skills to prepare criminal accounts of crime bosses based in the Middle East. She was nicknamed Barbie, and in one message recovered by police quipped, "The devil works hard, but Barbie, she works harder." Cartel members based in Dubai had masterminded a conspiracy to ship enormous sums of coke into the UK, and Sadlo, aka Barbie, was drafted in to help. The prosecutor, Tim Evans, told Carlisle Crown Court that the gang engaged in multifaceted illegal activity. Detectives from the Northwest Regional Organised Crime Unit detained Sadlo as she flew into the UK on February the 13th, 2024. Travelling first class with Emirates from Dubai, she was wearing a £130,000 rose gold Patek Philippe watch. She also had a £30,000 Rolex timepiece on the other wrist, with Cartier bracelets and rings bought with proceeds of crime, and a CV boasting her business acumen and qualifications. As a courier for the gang, Sadlo repeatedly collected vast quantities of coke as it was imported into the port of Harwich. A police drug expert concluded she could have trafficked almost 300 kilos of coke in 7 trips, including 33 kilos to Manchester. Over several months, she transported it around England in BMWs during whistle-stop tours. Coke was stored initially in safe houses and then moved around the country by a team of trusted drivers for supply to addicts. Sadlo was a trusted financial director, documenting many millions of pounds in drug transactions on spreadsheets. Prosecutor said she not only managed the profits, costs and expenses, but also managed the stock levels. The profit margins involved. No organised crime group at this level could operate or function without Magdalena Sadlo or an equivalent performing the role she was performing. They said Barbie, aka Sadlo, was enthusiastically, relentlessly efficient in her accounting, scolding major players when they did not meet her high standards. Officers also seized mobile phones and laptops with spreadsheet which showed ket and cannabis was also being supplied. After Sadlo provided PIN details, officers also unearthed a mass of encrypted group chat messages. In these, she and other high-ranking crooks discussed vast amounts of money linked to drug supply. On one phone, Sadlo made web searches for 50 kilos coke, June News UK, and which countries have the death penalty for drugs. Prosecutor said she clearly knew the scale and seriousness of the trade she was engaging in. Sadlo also managed encrypted communications with senior cartel members and maintained detailed spreadsheets tracking stock levels, customer payouts, expenses and profits. Messages recovered including one saying, "Having a good month, done £95,895 in profit so far from orders. We are smashing it on another level." The defense barrister said Sadlo disputed elements of the prosecution case. She had played a lesser criminal role than alleged against the background of drug addiction. In a letter, Sadlo expressed remorse after falling on hard times. She was highly regarded by friends and family, the court heard though. Sadlo, aka Barbie, admitted conspiracy to supply coke, cannabis and ket and conspiracy to launder money, and she was jailed for 14 years. Judge Nicholas Barker concluded Sadlo as a courier was central to the collection of drugs on their onward distribution. Judge Barker said, "I conclude there was gain and reward and in some way considerable to you." He said, "You are an intelligent woman and well understand risk and reward." He said, "I find you acted with real enthusiasm and sought to impress those at the top of the chain." So 12 men have already been handed sentences totaling more than 100 years for their role in the plot smashed by police under Operation Matrix. These included 2 men from Wigan, Gary Gittins and Mark Knowles, who were jailed in April for their roles as the controllers of the safe houses. Gittin said police allowed his home to be used by an organised crime gang to store and distribute approximately 175 kilos of coke valued at around £17.5 million, and Knowles facilitated the storage of more than £7 million of coke on 3 separate occasions. Officers seized £28,000 worth of drugs from Gittin's home and recovered mixing agents from Knowles' address, and Gittins was jailed for 7 years and 6 months, and Knowles got 4 years and 10 months, both admitted conspiracy to supply coke. Then you got Simon Buller, a scaffolder turned drug dealer from Wigan. He was jailed for 15 years and 2 months in September last year, and he was said to have played the leading role in the supply conspiracy. Said to Superintendent Zoe Russo from the NWROCU said Operation Matrix has resulted in the conviction of 13 individuals and prison sentences totaling over 140 years. These convictions strike a significant blow to the supply of drugs across the northwest in the UK as we continue to remove the top-end controllers of international drug supply. They said Magdalena Sadlo's arrest, aka Barbie, and her conviction highlight the reach and complexity of this operation. She played a key role in managing international drug supply and laundering criminal profits, and will now face the consequences of her actions behind bars. As Magdalena, aka Barbie, stood in the dock, flanked by security officers, the judge leaned forward and said, "Magdalena Sadlo, you stand before this court today not as Barbie, but as someone who was a willing participant in a criminal enterprise of considerable sophistication and scale. This was no ordinary street-level drug dealing. This was an industrial operation you calculated and global in its ambition. You were part of a vast Amazon-style distribution network designed to flood the streets of the UK of illegal substances." He said, "You are not a naive or foolish woman, far from it. You're intelligent, resourceful, and well-versed in risk and reward. You knew exactly what you were doing, and what you were doing was facilitating the destruction of lives. The drugs that move through your hands and through your system of communication, packaging, and delivery have left trails of addiction, broken families, and death. The court has seen too often the devastating consequences of the drug trade, and yet you, Barbie, participated with what I can only describe as enthusiasm. You were not on the periphery. You were not simply following orders. You were active, strategic, and deeply involved in ensuring a smooth operation of this vile business. Indeed, it is clear to this court that you sought to impress those above you in the hierarchy, positioning yourself for trust, status, and ultimately profit. You played a dangerous game for considerable gain, and now you must face the consequences of those choices. For the role in this large-scale conspiracy to supply Class A drugs, I'll sentence you to a term of 14 years imprisonment, and it is a sentence that reflects not only the seriousness of the crime, but your deliberate, calculated involvement. Let this serve as a warning to others. Those who seek to profit from misery will be pursued, prosecuted, and ultimately punished."